The end of an era looms.
Yes.
And within a matter of days, sadly, for the first time in probably over a century and a half,
yes,
there will not be a daily newspaper printed in Broome County.
That's correct. Yep, as the printing building in Johnson City will print its last on June the 16th. And our newspapers will be henceforth printed from the printing press up in Rochester and then delivered here. And we will all wait and see how this experiment works.
Well, it'll work.
Right. How well this experiment works.
Oh, right. So the Central New York Production Facility, Gannett's Central New York Production Facility, which had a reported price tag of $50 million and opened almost exactly 12 years ago. So after 12 years and churning out who knows how many millions of newspapers, not just for Gannett here in Binghamton, Elmira and Ithaca, but also for other newspaper companies.
Oh, yeah, regional newspapers across the state. Plus, they were printing all the Sears circulars for the entire country. I mean, they've done a lot of print jobs because of the high-quality state of the presses there.
I was told, I believe, among other things, back before the Village Voice no longer put out a print edition, the Village Voice, a legendary weekly newspaper in New York City, I believe that the printing was being done right there in Johnson City.
Could be.
Yeah.
Because they've done printing for years for other places.
So now, a week from tomorrow,
yes,
it ends.
Yes. I mean, they will use the plant for distribution for a while, and then I'm sure if there's a right offer, the facility will be sold. Newspaper business is a very changing business on a daily basis. And the Press and Sun Bulletin is undergoing drastic changes, just like the Times and all the national newspapers are. When I submit my column, I submit it electronically along with the photographs, and it goes there. Then somebody there does a little work on it. Then it's sent to a place in New Jersey where some of the layout is done. Then it's sent to a place in the Midwest, and it finally comes back here to be printed. Because that's the way the newspaper business has evolved. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is. We are slowly morphing toward an electronic media. I'm not particularly happy about that because I know a lot of my readers read just the print version. That's what they want in the morning. They want that newspaper in their hand, and frankly, so do I.
Well, I do too.
I mean,
look, I mean, this is a tangible.
Going on with the web page is great, and I love because they give me my counts of digital hits, and they do a wonderful job of doing that. But I still like, and for the age bracket of a lot of my readers, they like the print version.
And I'm looking, for example, this morning on page 3A, Southern Tier Throwback with photos, black and white photos, provided by Broome County historian Gerald Smith.
There it is.
Showing trucks around Binghamton. Now, that takes up the top half of page 3.
I know.
And you can't replicate that on your phone.
No. I mean, you can see all the galleries and such, but it's not the same sort of look. Although, because I had to do a program recently, they gave me some figures that those photo galleries that I've done, which I thought, well, who's going to be looking at this online? They had over 190,000 hits on those photo galleries.
Well, I look at them online too. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
I look at them on my phone.
I still like them in the paper format.
Sure, I look at them on my phone, on my laptop, on my desktop, on my 60-foot screen in my living room because I want to impress Connor, the dog, and he loves seeing giant images, even if they're black and white.
That's right.
But my point is, again, it's going to be the end of an era.
Yes.
So thinking back, and I know we didn't plan this ahead of time, but thinking back, how long do you think it's been since Broome County basically has had a daily newspaper being printed pretty much, at least on weekdays?
Prior to just around the time of the Civil War.
Wow.
Because we had daily newspapers, we had several daily newspapers being run. And for those who grew up walking down Shenango Street and looking through the little windows in the basement of the press building and watching the printing presses run, and remember that experience as I do, I mean, that's how it goes. Which leads me to the fact that for those who love history of newspapers, I'm doing a program on Wednesday, June 20th. The program starts at 6:45. We open the doors around 6 at the Decker Meeting Room at the Public Library on Court Street. And it's called All the News That Was Fit to Print, and it's a history of Broome County newspapers, because we've had dozens and dozens of newspapers. They've come and gone. They've had ups and downs. We're going through a whole new cycle, and I'll touch on some of that.
And you look back over the last 114 years, the Binghamton Press, and then I think it was in the mid-'60s they changed it to the Evening Press, because they decided that their focus was no longer just Binghamton, but it was also Vestal, Endicott.
Right, they had their regional editions, right, going to Tioga County and such, Norwich. And then, the press since 1985, September of 85, the Press and Sun Bulletin. And
then, around 1965 is when they moved out of 19 Shenango Street, out of the press building to the Parkway.
Right.
And then for many years, from 1965 through 2006, the paper was printed there, across from, I will call it SUNY Binghamton, or Binghamton University. And then in June 2006, 12 years ago, they fired up the beautiful, modern, I don't know if that's the last, it has to have been the last major newspaper printing plant built in the Northeast.
I can't imagine. There could be another one. And
maybe
then,
even
they
in the
moved their
country.
offices. And I had to ask, because we were there helping them clean out some stuff as they change over a little bit. They've been in their offices on Lewis Road now for 9 years. And it didn't seem possible to realize that UHS building, of course, they had moved out and they demolished the old building and then the construction. But it's been in that area for nearly a decade. And it doesn't take that long for the memories to go, wow, is it that long? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Imagine we've had a newspaper in Broome County, or we had a newspaper here before this was Broome County. First one was called the American Constellation. Dates back to 1801. It will eventually become what is the Tioga County newspaper, because we split off and such. But we realize we've had 200 plus years of newspapers. As you said, 150 years of daily printing.
And although, from a print standpoint, a week from tomorrow represents the end of an era.
Right.
The newspaper, the print edition continues, and they'll print at the Rochester area facility of the Democrat and Chronicle, and then it gets trucked down here.
Right.
We'll keep our fingers crossed, especially in the winter.
Indeed.
That's my biggest concern.
Mine too.
Or flooding. I mean, they're certainly not going to pay to have helicopters bring the newspapers in during bad weather. So, but probably 98%, 99% of the time it'll work out. But it's still, for me, as a person who's just so fond of newspapers, it'll be tough to adjust to. Of course, the newspaper continues. They continue with their efforts online, the digital platform, Press Connects.
Yeah, times they are changing. And that's what my job is, to document it all.